Excellent.
This is a smoke box, so if you imagine on a loco, front round door on an engine on the railway, that's the smoke box on a loco. This is basically folded back on itself, so the fire goes that way, then up through the tubes. There's 80 tubes, 40 on this side, 40 on that side, and they're about 3-inch diameter. There's no overheaters or superheaters or anything like that. Right. They're just standard tubes. So these doors open up this way, and we shoot tubes every 14 days. That's the main pressure gauge. This is the easing gear. So the valves are set to lift at about 8.5 bar, so just between the red and the blue line there. But in an emergency, we can dump that pressure as well by winding this in,
right.
And that manually opens the safety valves. Which our company policy is if we lift the valves when the passengers are on board, then it's an instant dismissal from the boat. So, but it is very hard to do.
Right.
It's a very docile boiler. Everything happens very slowly. The natural drafting, so the airflow over the funnel draws the fire, not like on locos where the exhausted steam goes into the fire and draws the fire.
Right.
Gauge glasses either side, so that's the water level in the boiler at the moment. As you can see, it's pretty clean.
Yeah.
We do water testing once a week. In fact, we're going to be testing the water in the boiler today for alkalinity and chloride.
Right.
And then we put a boiler treatment in, and we put a litre in a week, but it varies with the test, with the outcome of the test. So if the alkalinity is quite high, we put less treatment in, or if it's quite low, we put more in.
Yeah.
And that's basically to any rust, any crud build up on the pipes, anything like that, that gets dealt with.
Right.
And the way that we control that is by blowing down the boiler every day. So there's a valve on the hole there, and we use boiler pressure to push out the water. And we'll push out, say, half a glass of water, and then top up via this steam pump here, which pumps against boiler pressure through this pipe here, which is fed from that tank there, which is 500 litres of water. And we keep that full every day, because obviously we really don't want to lose water.
No, of course not, no.
So that's that bit. And then if you come down this side, just watch the shaft.
Will do.
So this is the engine. So the main steam pipe is here, feeds down to this valve here. So this is basically the accelerator.
Yeah.
So this is how much steam goes into the boiler, and this is the gear stick. At the moment we're running in full gear astern, and the red end of that correlates to the red side of the telegraph. Richie up in the wheelhouse has got full control of that telegraph. We basically just follow the command of what it says. So at the moment we always run slow astern alongside for 3 reasons. One is to regulate boiler pressure, to maintain vacuum on the engine. That large green pump over there is generating the vacuum, which is drawing the exhausted steam through the condenser, and then that green pump over there on the other side, the steam driven pump, is feeding salt water through the condenser constantly to cool that exhausted steam and turn it back into condensate or water, which is then pumped back into the boiler via this pump on this side of those 3 pumps.
Yeah.
That's feeding the condensate from the hot well back into the boiler, so we have really minimal losses of water through.
Yeah.
The only real big losses that we have are the whistle and the Windermere kettle in the bar. It's a compound engine, built in 1904. This is the high pressure cylinder, that's the low pressure cylinder. High pressure is running at boiler pressure, so whatever this is telling us, this is boiler pressure. So currently we're about 111 psi roughly. So this cylinder will be running at 111 psi, and then it exhausts, it's double acting pistons. It exhausts through this pipe here into the LP steam chest, does its work in the LP cylinder, then exhausts through into the condenser, which is aided on the exhaust by the vacuum which is generated from the air pump.
Right. Wow.
So it makes it
very
really
efficient.
efficient.
Yeah. Using the exhaust of
the main one to help drive
Yeah,
the
that's
second
right.
one.
That's right. And there is a certain point. You look at the cranks are offset in such a way. There's a point in the engine where it almost labours,
Oh, right.
and that's when the steam is finished doing its work and the vacuum kind of takes over, just to help it pull over that last little
Wow.
bit. Really.
Wow. Excellent. Amazing.
And then round the other side, if you want to around there.
Yeah.
Coal-wise, we've got 2 bunkers, 2 tons of coal either side, and she burns roughly half a ton of coal a day. But there are a lot of variants, tide, wind,
Of course, yeah.
you know, conditions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variants. And then over here, and this is the circ pump. So this basically runs non-stop all day. And all this is doing is picking water up, salt water from there, through here, through this pipe, into here. It goes down one set of tubes that way, then back through the next set of tubes this way, and then out through this pipe overboard. And that's just constantly pumping salt water through. Again, steam driven.
Yeah.
And the exhaust, this is the exhaust from this pump, runs down into the condenser as well. So that's running under steam and vacuum.
Right.
At the same time.
Right.
And then this pump here, which does get run occasionally, this is basically our GS pump, so general service. It does fire, it pumps bilges, and it will also double up as an emergency circ pump and pump water through the condenser as well.
Right.
But that because this pump is designed to pump at volume and this pump is designed to pump at pressure, the amount of water flowing through the condenser, we can only run the engine very, very slowly if we ever had to use this.
Right.
So if for some reason that packed up
Yeah.
and we went on
You've
to
got
this
limited
pump,
time. on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very slow movements, you know, we'd be
Yeah.
able to limp back to wherever and
Yeah. At least you better get back.
yeah, that's right. Now obviously we have got diesel engines on here. We've got the generator over in that corner. That's generating electricity to run the fridges and the tills and,
Yes.
and everything else.
Yeah. That's the modern bit.
But really, we can run the boat without that generator.
Yeah. That's just for auxiliary stuff.
Yeah. And then up the side of the boiler, this side, which is encased in checker plate, is the bow thruster engine. So again, another diesel engine,
Right.
which doesn't get run an awful lot. Turning in top nest, it's a hydraulic bow thruster. It's just got a hydraulic motor on it, and it just drives it.
So you get pretty good control, like just using the paddle set.
They're fixed together.
Oh, they're fixed together. All right.
And then it's just a rudder and a back table and chain steering.
Right.
This is part of the steering here. And she is, I mean, it's a wide circle that she uses, and there are only a handful of places that we can turn the boat in the river.
Right.
But
Because she originated in Dartmouth,
she was
didn't she?
built,
Yeah, she built here
we're
and
going to pass the yard
Yeah.
that she was built at.
yeah.
The engine was built down in Falmouth for a boat of similar design, also called Kingswear Castle. But you'll hear about that story on the trip.
All right. Great.
Yeah, so the engine is older than the boat. The engine is 114 years old this year.
Wow.
And the boat is 94.
Ah, so where did the engine come from then?
It was built from Kingswear Castle 1.
Oh, I see. Right.
It was built down at Copton Cove in 1904. She ran on the river up until the outbreak of the First World War. And then she was commandeered by the authorities and used as a hospital isolation unit. And then after the war ended, she was offered back to the steamboat company. They didn't want her back because they were worried that her timbers had lots of disease in them.
Right.
So they removed the engine and then built this boat and put the engine into this one.
Wow. Amazing. Just one more shot of those pistons, if I can.
Yeah, just mind your head on the
Yeah,
ground.
sure.